Every attack has a story. Every vulnerability has a root cause. Welcome to the very first episode of the Root Cause Podcast, the show where we go beyond the headlines to uncover what really matters in cybersecurity, offensive security, AI, and emerging technology. I'm your host, Mike Chamberland, founder and CEO of IntegSec. And today we're diving into one of the most exciting topics in cybersecurity: how AI is transforming offensive security, red teaming, and the future of penetration testing. We've brought together an incredible group of experts with decades of real-world experience building offensive security programs, researching cutting-edge attack techniques, and leading cybersecurity initiatives around the world. Let me introduce our panelists. First, we're joined by Carl Su, a cybersecurity service lead, where he focuses on security operations, product security, and protecting critical infrastructure. With more than 20 years of experience spanning cybersecurity, network engineering, and software development, Carl has built and scaled global penetration testing services and helped organizations translate technical findings into measurable risk reduction. His expertise spans offensive security, security operations, product security engineering, and ICS/OT security, making him a unique voice on where AI is headed in enterprise security. Welcome, Carl. Joining us is Nick Owers, an application security researcher at Tenzai and an offensive security specialist with nearly a decade of penetration testing and red team experience. Nick has helped 3 cybersecurity startups build, mature, and scale their offensive security programs, from building penetration testing practices from the ground up to advancing modern application security research. His background in offensive security, web application testing, and adversary simulation gives him a practical perspective on how AI is changing the way security professionals work. Welcome, Nick. And finally, we're joined by HaxrByte, a red team operator, penetration tester, and content creator. With more than 20 years in cybersecurity, HaxrByte has led global red team and penetration testing engagements while helping thousands of security professionals bridge the gap between capture the flag challenges and real-world offensive security. His expertise in red team tradecraft, active directory attack paths, adversary emulation, and offensive security leadership makes him one of the community's most respected voices. Welcome, HaxrByte. We've got an incredible discussion ahead covering AI-assisted penetration testing, autonomous agents, offensive security workflows, where AI actually delivers value today, and where the industry is heading next.
The first thing I'd like to hear from you guys is how's been your exposure to Mythos, if at all, or Fable, and Fable 5? Is it all what it's cracked up to be? And anything interesting about the evolving guardrails that have been observed while using that platform?
So I've had direct hands-on experience now with Mythos, as well as I've been using Fable 5 for internal personal project development. The biggest thing that I've noticed between the two is I've done a lot of work with smaller models that are tuned specifically for one use or another. In the case of Mythos, it seems that they built a frontier model specifically with the intention of cybersecurity intended. Both development and this, you can see this in how they released it as well. They released it to developers, but really they released it to the cybersecurity teams and pushed it into those areas. And that's really who got access to Glasswing. And I think Fable kind of mirrored that in that they said, okay, we're going to build the same model, but we're going to, all the specific data that was cybersecurity engineered, we're going to replace that with development tools. And so that's been my experience between the two. Is Mythos is it's a very good model. The big thing with it is long running. I can go into a whole thing on long running sub-agent use, which has really been just a game changer within the Fable space, as well as, for that matter, Mythos. But the big thing with Mythos is it's a security tuned model. And I think that's what a lot of people, especially right off the boat, missed. They went, oh, it's the latest model. It's the greatest model. It's got all these really cool like additions and features, especially the long running. And the ability to set it up with a loop and send it off with a bunch of subagents. Yes, it can do that. Fable does it better, in my opinion. But Mythos is absolutely amazing for chasing down vulnerabilities and doing secure development. That is the other really big push that we've had, that I've been seeing with it. It really wants to develop things securely. When I say, hey, I need you to just build this general documentation structure. I'm doing agentic engineering now, so I'm building the documentation first, and then I have the agents do all the coding afterwards. So when Mythos takes this, it goes, oh, would you like to add the security architecture into it? Would you like to add this additional security control into your design? Oh, yes, that is something that I would like to add. But if you're just doing general development, in all honesty, Fable seems to be really well tuned for development. So
nice.
That's been my experience.
I'm curious to how you're actually using it. You know, you're building tools with it. Are you just pointing it at code, or just using MCP servers with it, or?
So we have teams that are just pointing it at code. I'm using it for development because offensive security team, we don't really have a whole lot of direct use for it without a harness. And so I'm looking at going, okay, well, I'm a harness developer. Additionally to my work within Hitachi, I've gotten the last 6 months, I've been pushing really hard into agentic development and agentic engineering, and harness development has been a big part of that. And so I looked at it and said, oh, I can build a harness for penetration testers to use within our environment, actually get those hooked up to our testing drop boxes out to, and integrate it really into our workflow. So instead of a penetration tester being dropped in bare bones on their own, like they did 10 years ago, now they have a paired programmer there that actually knows the environment a bit better and has perfect recall, which is absolutely awesome. That's what I'm looking to build within our team and for our specific use case. Who knows whether or not it'll actually come to fruition? I mean, there's a lot of tools that are also coming to market in the same space, and I'm looking at those alongside. But we do have teams that are using it and saying, hey, throw it vanilla at the software or at the environment, see what comes out. It's absolutely amazing for that. The nice thing about long running with sub-agent connectability is it's able to really just go in, look at the whole space and go, okay, here's where all the vulnerabilities are. And they demonstrated that when they released it. They said, hey, here's a model that can go out and find hundreds of vulnerabilities. And we all found out that was 3 vulnerabilities that were all 100 some odd different ways to get to it. But it's really good at going off and finding full kill chain attack paths, which is quite beneficial. I think as we start using it, we're about a quarter of the way through our spend on it that we've allocated for it. So I think as we start using it a bit more, and as tools come out for it, and really as harnesses come out for it, I think that's really where we're going to see a lot more usage on it. But I mean, even just using Claude code, just saying go. In our particular team's use, for my case, because again, I'm building software, we stick it in a loop. I don't even actually have a seat. I just said, hey, here's documentation that I want to change. Make a goal. Loop comes around, picks up the goal, builds the thing. I didn't quite like that. Change the goal. Loop comes around, and it keeps coming around. It's actually really brilliant how it works like that.
Nice. And you touch on a lot of things over there. One other thing I want to touch on later is harness. I think there's a huge, if you have the proper harness, the smaller models can do quite well, especially if you have a whole bunch of them working together at the same time. I'm curious about all your thoughts on that, but also wanted to hear from HaxrByte and Nick. What have you guys had the opportunity to work with Mythos yet, or not? And also curious about your experience with Fable, or even just Claude and the other models, or anything you might be using for AI.
HaxrByte, go ahead, man. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've been, I don't think I've accessed Mythos directly yet, but I'll probably still get there. But been playing with Fable 5, and it's been, going back to Opus 4.8 by itself, which is frustrating, but that's fine. It's half the battle is keep using Fable, but it's mostly just for personal projects at the moment. So like in a semi-lab environment, obviously I'm putting a CTF spin on this. So I've built like a swarm or more like a hive, you would say. When Fable's really good in being the orchestrator and telling like little smaller sub agents what to do, that type of thing. So it's really good at bringing it all together and sort of like being the hive mind, if you would.
I guess the orchestrator, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I've been playing with that just to see, more from a tools point of view in using it as a tool. I haven't been brave enough to release it on client networks yet, but we'll probably get there. The thing is, you like need to know like the ins and outs like really well. We have clients that's been pushing for AI specific things. So it's coming. There's no use in
Fighting,
fighting it. Yeah, you just have to embrace it. If you can't win them, join them, right?
I will say that Fable and Mythos both very, very much feel more like a coworker than any other model so far.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny. My experience has been not with Mythos, but with Fable has been kind of mixed. I mean, I've had really great success with Opus and Fable. It feels more like a coworker, like you said. But I've also I've had it work on security tools where it's just not supposed to do, and it just does it for hours and hours, and then eventually like, hey, wait, I shouldn't be doing this. And then I've also doing like totally benign things, working on marketing PDFs that have not even related to security. And it would be like, hey, this is dangerous. And then it downgrades to Opus. So that's been a little bit annoying. My experience has been, it doesn't seem to be as big of a leap as I think the marketing made it sound like it was much more of a leap than it actually is. And then, like you're saying, Carl, the harness is what really makes a difference. The orchestrator, HaxrByte, like you said, and the swarm all working together versus one Mythos is probably the way of the future.
My new pairing is Fable along with GPT 5.5. It's amazingly.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I do the same. I switch between the models, not always because it's the best fit, but I'm running out of credit, so I have to go somewhere else.
Yeah, my Fable credit runs really fast, so I started using 5.5 as the tool orchestrator, and I can tell Fable call ChatGPT via the A2A, and the agent-to-agent framework just handles the tool calling all through lower token usage.
Very nice. Nick, any thought on that?
I haven't used Fable a whole lot. I'm very, what's the way to word it? The way I work is very chaotic. So I'll do one thing, and if it doesn't work, I'll just start moving to a different thing, and I'll start doing. And the first time I tried to run Fable on some of my work, it immediately shut me down and said, "This is, clearly dangerous. Don't do this." And I was like, "Well, I'm actually in a local lab right now, so this should be totally safe." But I didn't want to fight with it. So to your point, Mike, it bounced me back to Opus, and I've had a lot of luck with Opus. Carl, I don't know when you talk about looping, if you mean kind of to handle context rot, where if you could run that long running task, but at some point it starts to kind of degrade a little bit on you, and you start to kind of lose quality. So getting back into a fresh
loops.
Yeah,
orchestrational loops, and it partially handles context rot. Although I found a better way to handle context rot on that, and that's I just have the model pull in exactly what context it needs, and I have a LLM based second brain that all the context gets stored in there. This is the benefit to being more in the software engineering side than in the and security engineering side than on the offensive side anymore. is all of my stuff. It lives in a brain that's very easy for it to access. It knows all the things that it needs to know for that particular thing, and Fable doesn't think any of it's dangerous. So
that's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, that was kind of why I turned away from it. I'm sure it's very powerful in the right harness, in the right scenario. My other thought is I've always kind of, I don't want to say prided myself, but always took it as like a challenge to get more with less. So Mike, you mentioned, some of the open weight models. I'm starting to hear a lot about, what is the Z.AI one? GLM 5.2? Is that it's starting to hear a lot of positive things about that. I haven't used it personally yet, but the company I'm working for just did a lot of benchmarks against it and basically said, it's not as good as, at least for offensive security yet, as some of the state-of-the-art models, but it certainly was cheaper. So if you think about how you can kind of get that cheaper model to maybe not today, but in the near future, act as good as or close to as good as with the right harness, with the right prompt engineering and avoiding context issues, it does make me wonder what the future of like the open weight versus the state of the art really is going to look like.
To be honest, open weight or even closed weight, I think the smaller models are going to be where the tool usage is going to be anyway. And we're getting to the point now where the larger models are so much better at orchestration that let them orchestrate. The small models will handle the tool calling, and it's fine.
In the end, one other thing I've been realizing is it really is just like people, right? If you try to have one person run a whole company, it's not going to work. Even if that person is the most, the best person in the world, if it's only that one person doing everything, it's not going to work well. You have to have, strong people, weaker people, processes, rules, and, quality checks and things like that. And once you start doing that with AI as well, that's when you get the best result. Hence the harness we're all talking about.
One thing I was thinking about, like Cole, you said with you use it for software development, etc. Do you think there's I think most people shifted like the way they are using AI in terms of like in the beginning it was like build this app and it sort of like goes away and it does all of its own assumptions and its own imagination, whereas people are now more inclined like let's build a plan, let's iron this out and sort of work on the plan until you're happy and then you say go build, versus in the beginning where everybody was just like throwing it.
Yeah, so there's a whole thing that's going around. I'm on X very heavily nowadays, so there's a whole thing that's going around X right now of like there are different maturity models. Vibe coding is like 0 is where like maturity model 0. That's where you are you're asking the AI questions. It's 99% of everyone's in that. Then you've got the people who moved on. They said, oh, like Claude, make me app that does this, and that's where we get vibe coding. That's kind of your level 1. When you get into level 2, this is where you're handling context raw. This is where you're reducing your problems that are coming out of it from in any way that the model can throw at it. When you get into maturity level 3, this is where you're getting into it's document driven or spec driven design. And a lot of people go spec driven design. They go, oh, I just made a spec, but that's really not what it is. I have massive conversations with my AI. We build the specs, but we also build full documentation structures. So I have in the same way you would have at any organization, I have a full, you could use Confluence. I'm using a new platform now, but that's a bit better with the MCP side, but you build full documentation wikis. You still need to have all that documentation. And a part of that is getting to the point where I don't even write, I haven't written code in 6 months now. I write documentation and then I edit that documentation when it doesn't work right, and I have a loop that comes around and picks up the next thing. Again, this is that orchestrational loop. So when it sees a change in the documentation, matches the code to match it, goes finds bugs, does all that. That's where orchestrational loops come in, and that's another layer on top of that. And I've got another one that I'm working on that I don't think anyone's really hitting yet, and that's infrastructure. So I've moved to having AI managed infrastructure, so I don't have to worry about passing secrets anymore. It's all securely passed between agents off of a secret store, and cost is actually relatively low, and setup time was relatively low. But so all of my API keys, I don't have to pass anything across anything. It literally just goes up to the secret store, generate me a token with this scope for this amount of time, and time limited. Every time it needs to go up and get a new token, it goes up and gets a new token, and then all of that gets logged into its own little seam. And I've got an agent loop that watches the seam for anomalous behavior, and all of that gets logged into its second brain. So every agent knows, oh yeah, this agent went and grabbed this for this reason. So,
very cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
Yeah. Maybe we should have a demo of that sometime.
Possibly, yeah. I could. I need to write up our article for that.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to get into more of the details on how you implemented that. One other thing I've noticed is generally not just in our work of cybersecurity testing, but also software development, writing brochures and whatever. I feel like you cannot get good results out of AI without an expert driving it. I think we need to be AI wrangler. And when we do that, that's when you get great results, because the expert will notice things that are dumb. The AI will often do things that are dumb. So that's one other thing I noticed. You have to be an expert to get the best results possible. If you just give the tool to somebody and say, build an app, that's when you end up with a really bad application full of holes that probably don't even work anyways.
Or even from like pen test perspective, I'd be hesitant to just blindly shoot a million findings at a client, right? Because if they're a knowledgeable client, they come back and are like, well, this is not great. This is made up. This is a false positive. Why are we even doing this, right? So, yeah. So you do kind of want to have faith in what's coming out. And the best way to do that is to be an expert in driving it, or, I am seeing definitely an improvement on Model's ability to, again, I'm pretty focused on just, pen testing or offensive security research, looking for 0 days, looking for things like that. So, I'm curious how long you guys have been kind of using AI and what you would say are like milestones or just the observations over that time, in terms of how it's changed or improved. It still seems like it needs that expert in there, but what I've noticed is less, there was times where it would hallucinate, this is an LFI, or here's a SQL injection, and it would return data that you'd say, like, is this actual data? And it was like, oh, no, sorry, that's data that it would look like that if this was successful, but it wasn't. And you're like, then why did you even say that? But it doesn't really do that anymore, but I remember a time when it did. So I'm just curious what you guys have seen in that kind of improvement stage.
Yeah, I think it's all about your maturity model. Depends on what maturity you get to. The higher you can get that, the better. Helps when you have an engineer that's gotten to that spot to take you along. But and Michael, I've mentioned him before. I've got a buddy that I was talking about bringing onto the podcast at some point. I got him from like maturity 2, where he's like, oh, like Spec-Driven design, I'm really liking this. This is really interesting. I'm like, no, check this out. And I showed him 3 different things, got him up to that maturity level is right about where I was in a couple of days. Like you get there really quick once you unblock past the roadblocks.
Yeah, I think actually, to your question, Nick, the experience, and I've seen this a lot with folks in penetration testing, right? Early on, nobody really liked it. Nobody believed in it. And once you actually start using it, you see how powerful it is. It really is just an accelerator at this point. It's not something that can replace the expert, but it can make you a lot faster and go a lot deeper than ever before. So it's a huge amplifier, essentially. And that's how I've been seeing it. And
and we really need to be prepared for when it changes over to we need to be integrated into the development teams, because that's coming.
Yep. One example, I was doing some vulnerability research, some fuzzing, right? And I use AI to build a whole fuzzing platform, and it's fuzzing a whole bunch of different binaries. It's actually causing things to crash, finding bug, triaging everything. But I had, to get it to do something accurately and not lie, or it would like make claims that were unproven over and over and over again. And I have to like, we need better proof than this, and then keep iterating. And eventually, I got it to write a full POC that I can simply run against a target, and then see the actual crash and the instruction pointer being overwritten and everything. But it did take a lot of work to get to that point where, the AI thought it was done, but there was a lot more work to do. And as we went through this work, we did hit some roadblocks that, oh, wait, we can't do this. Oh, wait, we can't do this. Or sometimes we get deeper and it's like, wow, this is actually a lot worse than we thought. So, I think it's important, you can do vulnerability research, you can do pen testing and development, but you have to pay attention and make sure that you guide your agent towards the right goals.
So Michael, my question is the agent getting better, or is the AI getting better, or are you getting better at asking questions?
It's probably everything, right?
I know it's a combination. I feel like the more you use it, the better you can use it, and the better you use it, the better results you get. And I think that's like that with everything. Once you feel, I guess, comfortable, firstly, and then you sort of get results. You sort of know how to what to look out for. For example, I mean, if you didn't know it would hallucinate, you would just believe everything it said. Where you like as the expert, you have to sort of like mark the homework. You just can't assume, and I think that is. I just think like the more you use it, the better it is for the AI and for the expert.
Yeah, and the more it can use our data for training as well, I guess.
Yeah.
There are privacy settings on the subscription, and if you're using the API, of course, contractually, they're not going to train on your data, and they're only going to keep it for a short period for safety purposes.
There's also an interesting thing that a lot of people I don't think quite pick up on is your data doesn't always go to the model provider. So in the case of like if you're running Claude code, your code doesn't generally leave the computer. It's being acted on, and especially with tool use, it's being acted on locally on the machine. It's going, hey, you need this. Okay, what's the information that comes back on it? Yes, there is some data leakage, but it's nowhere near as bad as a lot of people I think.
It's not uploading the whole repo.
Yeah, you're not uploading the whole repo. You're not uploading entire sections of it. Could they piece together the code? Yes, maybe, but it would be like handing somebody a bin full of code in a shredder.
That's interesting.
All right, let's move on to another topic. It's still very similar, but I'm curious how surprised you guys were that Fable was jailbroken the first day of its release.
Not at all.
Nope, not at all.
Also expecting that to be on day one as well. Actually, I even predicted it, so that was interesting. Do you guys think there's an end or solution to prompt injection? Like
let it work.
Yeah,
let it cook.
I think we like need to worry less about prompt injection being a problem, and what you connect the AI to is the thing. What powers do you give it, and then you sort of like have to assume it's going to be jailbroken at some point. What happens if it is? And I mean that's the same as what we do with companies in security, right? You just assume you're going to get hacked, right? You like never say you're like unhackable. So I don't think AIs will ever be. 100%.
I have a feeling that they spend just enough money to make it look like they care, because there's no financial reason why any engineer would look at that solution and go, no, let's just put more guardrails down.
Agreed.
Yeah. I'm thinking, again, it's like a human, right? You can't, just like phishing, we're never going to fully prevent phishing because the human is always going to be,
I disagree, but
you think phishing can be completely
yeah. Remove the human from the equation. If humans don't get phishing emails anymore, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I guess it's the same thing with the AI. I guess you remove the AI, you can remove prompt injection, right? It's the same concept, though. If you have the human that's in your company, and it can be targeted, and you can train them, you can give them tools. You can have filtering and everything, but you can never fully prevent it. I feel that's a great parallel to prompt injection and AI, where something that we'll have to manage on an ongoing basis.
But to be fair, though, the other side of that equation is you only have to reduce phishing to the point to where it's no longer cost efficient to do phishing. If you can't get a phishing email in because there are good enough protections in there, and I think Agentic is going to really push that boundary of it's not going to be financially reasonable anymore for a company to go, oh no, we're just going to get them with phishing.
Yeah, I mean, a bad actor, if it's too much effort, they won't do it, right? If it's too expensive for them.
They're businesses.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, they are businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's different types of attackers. Some are just looking for resources, right? And they'll look for the softest target they can find. And if you're too difficult, they'll just move on to whatever is the easiest because they just want CPU, RAM, and network bandwidth. The bigger problem is when somebody's specifically targeting a specific company. And that is where things get a lot more dangerous. People can go a lot deeper. So I don't know where I was going with this anyways.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, to feed off of that, it's not that you don't have to be the winner in cybersecurity. You just have to not be the softest target, right? You just have to be a little bit for most cases.
And to that point, individual attack paths as well don't have to be the winner. They just have to be slightly better than the next one. The moment, like it used to be, phishing wasn't the way in. It used to be 0 days were the way in because there was just tons of them everywhere. Now, those have been hardened so well that phishing's the way in. AI's got a really big soft spot. If AI's got a really big soft spot, you can very easily push a lot of that phishing off onto AI.
Yeah, I mean, you're social engineering agents instead of people, almost, right?
Yeah.
It is. It really is.
Isn't that what prompt injection is? Social engineering the AI?
It really is.
But at that point, it lands on your incident response team as opposed to your human resources or training.
Yeah.
Which is a better place.
Yeah. Very true. Somebody just asked me the other day, like, will we see like another WannaCry or is AI going to stop it? And I said, I don't know. AI might be the reason for multiple reasons that we do see another WannaCry, in the sense of there's so much attack surface that is AI now that isn't hardened the same way SQL databases and web servers and web software has been now for 20, 30 years. It's just
the real question is it going to be the US or China that launches that attack?
Who knows? Both?
Probably.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about AI generated code. I was wondering, how's the quality that you've observed on AI generated code? And when you test, what kind of things are you finding? For example, I've noticed a lot of AI generated app, for whatever reason, they like to put secrets in your JavaScript. So that's one thing I've seen a lot. Also, when we pen test other people's application, they tend to bring back a lot of the issues that I felt we were in general better at, but we're starting, seeing way more SQL injection and cross-site scripting and a lot of authorization issues in AI generated code. And then to compound that, we used to look at a large application that was 100,000 lines of code, and I would keep us busy for a few weeks. Now with AI, they're pushing hundreds of thousands lines of code in a matter of a few days. So things are changing really fast, and the quality is lower, is what I've been observing. And I'm wondering what your thoughts on that are.
I think there's other spin to this also is one thing when previously somebody wrote the code, right? So somebody owned it. Somebody read that code from the start to finish, not just code reviewing it, right? So when the AI gives you, like I said, 10,000 lines of code, who's going to read that, right? Who's going to read everything and who's going to own it? I think is also something to think about.
That's a good point. At the rate AI can write stuff, it's humanly impossible to really review all of it.
The new direction is not to. So this is how I work on it is with the Spec-Driven design. You treat it like a junior employee. You don't push junior employees' code to production. That doesn't work. It's not how that works. You have judgment rounds. You have full CI/CD. There's a full process. If you're for the companies that are not implementing that, which is most of them right now, the majority of companies are still not implementing. They're not implementing a real engineered solution, and AI has made coding faster. This is the reason why Anthropic bosses have said coding is solved. Coding is solved. Software engineering is not. That is a very different thing, and that's not that they're not trying to solve it, but I don't think I think that's something we've already solved. There's already a process in the software development process that companies follow and organizations follow to different and varying degrees. But the stricter that you follow to that process, and the more you are developing in that correct way that we've already established is the correct way, the better code you get, and the less dirty code goes to production. And this is kind of why I say that I think offensive security testing is going to go more shift left. Like this is our opportunity to shift all the way left, get integrated into the development teams. Security engineering is really going to be the new space, because I mean, you can't even penetration test all of the applications that are coming out. It's not an option. But if you have good security engineering built in, good security coding practices that are making sure that everything is staying on target, and you have a specialist that is integrated into your development program, identifying where the agent missed security loops, working with their agent that is thinking about security things specifically, that's where we're going to get improved code quality.
I think, Cole, I 100% agree with you, because even if you had a human programmer, right, they can also write code that's not secure and that's dirty, right? So I mean, if you don't apply those practices that we know work, like you say, even to a human coder, you've got the same problem.
Yep. And the difficulty is
different.
And the difficulty at this point is really convincing leadership and boards of directors that this is the direction that it's going. I called a thing a couple of years ago saying that, oh yeah, phishing is dead. We're not going to be doing phishing penetration tests like we do them currently. I don't know that any of our vendors actually still provide phishing tests in the way that was done, or that they were done just 3 years ago. I think Red Team's next. Sorry, HaxrByte. But I think Red Team's next.
I think it's it's just going to push everything to level up, but right. It's not going to go away. It's just going to get more specialized.
I think it's going to be more integrated, and it's going to look less like what we saw Red Team's looking like. Maybe it'll keep the same name, maybe it won't. But
Red Team's cool.
I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool. You and I can go back and forth on this, I'm sure, but I love the meme that I put up a little while ago, where it's Red Team becomes very easily a parade for your executives. Great way to get them to spend money, which, if that's what you need, okay, it's a great tool.
Yeah.
No offense meant, though.
No.
I think it's a great tool to, for a mature organization when they want to really test their security and learn, confirm everything's working the way they expect. Yeah. And plug the holes that are not working.
I'm just a bit curious as whether or not that's still going to be a requirement in 10 years. I don't think it's going to be 5. I think it's going to be 10.
I think verification, like you mentioned, we have to have solid processes, and building software, we already knew how to do that before AI. The problem is people now become, like you said, coder, and they're not software architect, so they write things that are really bad. But the solution is stuff we already knew before AI. You have to have, software development process, gated check-ins that, don't let you check in bad code, regression tests, unit tests, batteries of unit tests that run, these different things, code reviews. But I feel strongly right now that the human still needs to be there for the orchestration and the validation. I'm absolutely not comfortable handing out anything, software, pen test results, anything that's purely generated by AI without validating it, because we just do so much better at it still. It's probably going to change. We'll see how long it takes before we can get more out of the AI, but that's how I feel we're now.
Fable's an interesting one to that.
Yeah,
I'll have to keep that in mind. I spoke up and then I lost exactly what I was going to say. Oh, I just kind of think of the internet, right? Like the 90s internet versus today's internet, so give it 10 years. And I think the improvements that I've seen, not just with the models themselves, but Carl, to a lot of the points you've made about not just the model, but also the process around the model, how to use it, how to make the most of it, how to orchestrate it. Those sort of things, I think, will continue to evolve, maybe even more so than the models themselves over the next 10 years. And I think that's where, Mike, you said it, like, as a pen tester 3-4 years ago, I was like, oh, AI sounds kind of like a pipe dream, and now I'm like, that's all I do is AI stuff all day with pen testing. And so I guess seeing what it's going to be like in 5 or 10 years is going to be, I think it's much more capable than I gave it credit for 3 or 4 years ago. And so I guess we'll see. I don't know if I have a point, but I guess we'll see.
So one thing to think about, Fable is great, but I've had it completely misinterpret stuff in a way that's really, really dumb. So it will make mistakes just like people. And ultimately, it is a neural network, right? It simulates just like we work. So maybe we will have, maybe we will be stuck here for a little while.
So there is a reduction on that. The reduction on that is to track your notes. If you identify something that it does wrong, you tell it to remember that. You have it make a note in your you're using Claude MD, whatever your memory platform is, you have it make a note in that, and it does start chipping away at that. It reduces it not to zero, but it reduces it quite heavily.
That's right. Yep, you definitely can help it get better, but it's just like people, not perfect, and I don't think we'll have a perfect solution just because of the way it works. It has some randomness to it, right? It's just trying to predict the next thing, and I think we might be stuck here for a little while. It'll be interesting to see how it develops over the year.
And we're not looking for a perfect system. We're looking for better than what we have.
That's true. Yep. So another question is, do you guys feel AI lower the skill floor for penetration tester and security researchers for people getting into this now? The offensive cybersecurity world? Is it?
I think so. I think it's shifted, or it's not raising. What do I want to say? It's raising the floor, but it's raising the ceiling as well. If that makes sense. So it's a couple of years ago, you were a really good pen tester if you knew these and these commands, right? And you could quite easily recognize this. Nowadays, it's more about sort of like a niche, more of applying like the attack path or that type of thing. I think it's like anything, right? If you have to, it's like the entry. I don't know how to word this properly, but floor raise and ceiling raise. I think that was my point. I just lost my train of thought.
I think the big thing with it is like it really forces us to look at who we're hiring. Are we hiring a breadth of people who are being trained up and moved into, or are we just hiring seniors? And that's been a very big thing in the industry in the last 10, 15 years. Has been, we only hire senior. We don't allow penetration testers to learn and grow. There's very few shops that still do that. There are some, but that has been a thing that hasn't been pushed. And I think with AI, that's the really big space. Is it says no. You can now, with very little experience, come in and pick up an AI and get the initial scanning done, and then you have a senior come in that actually looks at what was done, make sure that the report was put out, and it actually pushes us to really tap into the younger the under market in the next generation.
It's important that we still have experts in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that was my point, right? You have to, you're still going to need people with enough experience to know when the AI is wrong. And, in the same breath when the junior pen tester is wrong. So, that will also teach the junior pen testers to recognize that. So I think it's like, it's helping each other. Just getting there faster. I think that's the thing with AI is, you can probably still get there on your own, but with AI, you're just going to get there so much faster.
It pushes us to really work together, with especially people with different experiences.
Yeah, I think if you're a junior, or even if you're a senior looking for a junior, gauging what kind of learner they are. Are they impatient and they just want to say they did it, and now AI kind of helps them just say they did it, or are they thinking about what it did and actually learning from that? I think that's a big piece. And on the other side, I haven't done a whole lot of development in my life, right? So if I use AI to develop something, I could spit out some really mediocre kind of thing really quickly with AI prompting. But if I actually want to start to learn about development, if I don't go back through and see what it did and research and figure out how it could have did it better and still kind of learn, I don't know how much I'm actually learning versus just saying I got it done. And the other thing that's kind of relevant here is right when I left my last job, there was a new hire who had only been there maybe 2 months, 3 months before we moved into, like, he came on board, was doing there's a lot of traditional automation that we were doing in pen testing there, not necessarily AI stuff, but like Ansible and some of that stuff to it's just heavier scripting, a bigger platform, stuff like that. And he came in under the impression that that's what he'd be doing. And within 2 months, the company started kind of moving into this, like, we're almost going to be doing more reviewing of AI output than we're going to be doing manual pen testing. And he ended up leaving. And it was not because he didn't, he's like, I respect the AI thing. I can tell it's the future, but there's just too much AI stuff to do here. And I'm not actually going to be able to learn the foundations that I still want to learn. I'm going to go back to more of a manual consulting firm, learn my foundations, and then maybe chase the AI thing in the future. So
yeah,
pretty interesting.
That's a really good point, Nick. There's two approaches, right, to using AI. So one approach is the one you just described. Let AI do its thing and then validate the results. And I feel that's the weaker of the approach. The other approach is have the human expert do their work and then use AI to amplify them, to go faster and to go deeper. And that's when you get some really good results, as opposed to just let the AI do its thing and then look at what it produced.
The new buzzword on that is T-shaped engineer. And you should be able to go very deep on a particular topic or several, especially if you're more senior. But ultimately, you should have a broad understanding of the entire engineering surface.
Of course, yep. You have to be driving it, not it driving you.
Yep.
Wondering also, what do you guys think about bug bounties, and are they doomed because of AI?
I think it's going to be one guy.
I don't know. I would put it in the same bucket almost as CVEs right now, where it's like a logjam. Like you try to submit to MITRE and you might hear back in a couple months. You might hear back right away if it's something super serious, like an Outlook, or I shouldn't say Outlook, like an Exchange, or something everybody's using. I think you'll get a quick response, but just about everybody else is in this logjam. And with MITRE, I mean, you got a lot of volunteers involved, but you think the same thing would happen in bug bounty, where there's just, hopefully they have harness to help validation, but validating AI with AI is a skill set in its own, right? Carl talked about some of that stuff. And if they're not doing that, then there's going to be a logjam there too, still waiting for humans to manually go through this huge wave of just AI findings, some of which are great because they come from senior or experienced person who's being amplified, and some of which are just guy who really wants money, bought Claude subscription, and is just slamming it against every in-scope application and trusting everything that comes out, hoping some of it will be okay. Like the curl developer is a good example, where he's just tons of findings, most of which are crap.
Right, just missing HTTP headers.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the easy bug bounty things are gonna sort of like go away and not be worth it doing anymore. I don't think there's going to be monetization on those, which will make like the lead guys, I guess, more valuable even. If you can like stand out from the crowd. If like you said, Nick, with all these bug reports, getting 10,000 bug reports, all basically look the same as AI generated. Everything looks the same. I don't know who's going to digest that, right? So if you get something that's like more elite, I guess, that's the way forward.
So here's another way to think about it as well is right now developers have GitHub. There's a lot of hiring that's coming out of GitHub right now. Because in GitHub, I can, as a developer, look at your commits and determine, okay, are you doing just blanket commit, or are you following proper CI/CD and proper development process? And that's how I can pick out whether or not somebody's a good developer or not. And full disclosure, I'm not a good developer by this category. But I mean, bug bounties are an opportunity for penetration testing companies and companies hiring for like myself hiring for internal penetration testing teams. It's a great opportunity for penetration testers to say, look, this is what I can do. I'm not expecting to get paid because somebody probably already found this, because I mean, these things are getting found in seconds now. But let me show you that I can walk through all the steps of the reporting process this is verification that this is actually the issue that needs to be resolved. If I can walk through that process and show you that I can do that, you know what? If I can see that, that's a really good way to do it. And companies like HackerOne and BugCrowd that are socializing that if they make that process a bit more visible to hiring managers, that makes it a lot easier for us to tell who's actually going to be a good engineer early on.
Sure. Yeah. I was just going to say my interview process for the job I'm in now. I mean, they are like, we're going to give you a vibe coded app. Full disclosure, it's vibe coded. It's intentional. In fact, we planted more vulnerabilities into it. Here's 2 hours. Go find as many as you can, but don't use AI. And if you do use AI, don't make it an agent, like a commercial agent, and you're obviously not going to have time to write your own agent in this 2-hour interview. So it was very much like, prove you can open Burp Suite, or you can script a couple things together and do the pen testing job without AI. We're going to use nothing but AI probably when you're in the job, but we want to know you know how to do it without.
And it used to be the OSCP was the way to show that. And now everyone has one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I like your prove you can open Burp Suite.
Yeah.
I almost think we need to tell HackerOne and BugCrowd they've got another line of service call for hiring managers to as a service, right, that they can sell. Yeah, you get like a subscription as hiring managers. Like, all these guys are like good candidates. Just tick 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 tick.
Yeah. That's a good point.
No, it's a school for early career, which is something that we don't have.
I know someone that runs a bug bounty platform, and several months ago, they were completely buried with submission. Don't know, in that whole stack, there's probably some real, severe things, but everything is like misrated. The severity is not rated correctly. And it's just a pile of junk. And, in the end, what they did, they actually recovered and they're able to manage it now. And AI does the first pass at triage, and then it, after that, it goes to human. Also, what they require with the submission is they require more complete information and things that the AI can use to automatically validate things. And that's been working. So I think there is a way for CVE issuers and bug bounty platforms to recover. It'll just take some time take a little bit longer for some, and others are already there.
They had a fire hose turned on to them 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not their fault.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time here. I was just wondering, any exciting AI success or fail story you want to share before we wrap up that happened recently? I'll go with mine. We just published the fuzzing platform I was describing earlier. It's been hard to get it to the point where it's producing something useful, but we got to that point and that's been released. And for me, it was more about, you hear a lot of people saying it's all junk, it can't do it well and all that. I wanted to see for myself what it takes to get to that point where you actually have a good output, something real, something critical. And that experience was enlightening to learn all what it takes and kind of give me the sense of where we're at. How far can you push AI and how hard you have to push it to get to what you want. Any other thoughts before we wrap up?
So I've got a fun little win, and because everyone's trying to push things smaller and like go to a smaller, cheaper model if you can. So my success on that was building a mail services is one of my hobby projects. I'm building a mail service platform that's intended to be the end to phishing, or at least a cost reduction to where, like, yes, private people, grandma and grandpa should never get phished. So we kill the pig butchering scams by making them functionally cost inefficient, and taking out phishing is a big one of those. One of the things that I've noticed is that if you're training it well, and again, have a really well built harness, a 20 billion parameter model is actually very good at getting, I would say, probably 98% of the phishing that you send at it and spam that you send at it. It identifies it perfectly, no problem. Yeah, and if you incorporate that into model training and true positives into model training, it gets better.
I wonder if that model gets better at phishing as well.
Possibly. I haven't tried it.
Interesting
All right.
thought.
Well, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I was agreeing. I was saying it's an interesting flip. Is every time you're making something better at defending, are you also inversely making it potentially better at attacking if it falls into an inverse situation? It's an interesting thought.
So the nice thing about AI, because it's statistical, it's not programmatic. If you train something to be better at one thing, that does not necessarily make it better at the inverse. It may make it better, but it may not be proportional either. So that is kind of the other thing. And when you're training to detect, training to detect is very different than training to create. So,
yep, that's a good point.
Potentially, I haven't tried.
Yep. But I think what you're bringing up, Nick, is this is a never-ending race, and things are just moving faster and faster, and it'll probably just keep accelerating. So people are going to fasten their seatbelt and keep up with everything that's moving along. So thank you so much, guys. Let's wrap up the podcast for today. That brings us to the end of today's episode of the Root Cause Podcast. A huge thank you all to all our panelists for sharing your experience, insights, and perspective on some of the most important topics shaping offensive cybersecurity today.
Today's discussion made one thing clear. The offensive cybersecurity landscape never stands still. New attack techniques, evolving threat actors, emerging vulnerabilities, advances in red teaming, and rapidly changing technologies continue to reshape the industry at an incredible pace. Keeping up with these changes requires continuous learning, collaboration, and a willingness to adapt. To everyone listening or watching, thank you for spending your time with us. We hope this conversation gave you valuable insights into today's offensive cybersecurity landscape, introduced you to emerging trends worth following, and provided practical takeaways you can apply in your own work. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the Root Cause Podcast so you don't miss future conversations with security leaders, researchers, and practitioners exploring the latest developments, techniques, and trends across offensive cybersecurity. Thanks again for joining us, and until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and stay secure.